Imagine a world where every individual, regardless of their ability, feels seen, valued, and empowered to step into their own greatness. That's the world today's guest is working to create. She's an educator, an advocate, and a leader who is making an undeniable impact. As a special education teacher, she's dedicated her career to ensuring every child receives the support they deserve. But her work doesn't stop in the classroom. As a state director of North Dakota Miss Amazing, she's giving young women with disabilities a platform to shine, grow in confidence, and embrace their full potential. She's a mother, a wife, and a community builder who believes that true change happens when we come together and take action. And today, she's here to inspire us to do that. You're listening to Act to Impact with Brandi DeVries. Through heartfelt stories of resilience, hope, and community, I share my personal experience as a longtime advocate and fundraiser for the national nonprofit Children's Cancer Research Fund. Invite pediatric cancer families to tell their stories and highlight individuals who use their unique gifts to create a positive impact. Welcome to Act to Impact. I'm Brandi DeVries, and today I'm honored to introduce you to the incredible Samantha Youngren.
Hi, I'm so excited.
Excited for you to be here today too, Samantha. So first of all, I want to thank our listeners and people who have shared Act to Impact. They are helping us to reach more action takers and difference makers. So before we dive into this episode, if you're listening and you haven't subscribed or followed the show yet, please do that right now, or even give this episode a like and leave a comment. But now let's dive into our episode with Samantha. Well, it is good to have you on here because we have a fellow North Dakotan on the podcast. Getting back
Yes.
to my roots. I love that. So Samantha, every guest that I have on, I always start with like how we know each other, how we're connected, and why I have you on the podcast. We met because we are connected through the pageant world, which
Yep.
there's a lot of guests that I have on the show that are connected in some way to the pageant worlds. But we are both forever Miss North Dakota USAs. So I was 2011 and you were 2000.
19.
Yes, I love that. So a few years between us, and now I'm living in Minnesota, and so I don't get to go back to the North Dakota State pageants as much as I would like. But I still love that there are several of us that are able to keep in touch through social media, and that sisterhood just lives on. I was so thrilled when you reached out and expressed that you wanted to share more about your story and the impact that you're making in North Dakota with Miss Amazing. And I think it's just also a great example of how title holders are continuing to give back and support communities and different initiatives well after the year of service and the work in our community is over. I feel like that is a sign of a true queen. So thank you for being still involved even after the crown has been taken off.
Yes. Long retired, but yeah, pageantry actually brought me to North Dakota Miss Amazing, and so I'm very thankful for both parts of my journey. They've both been amazing.
Awesome. All right. So let's start with getting to know you a little bit better. Tell us more about yourself, where you live, some hobbies, maybe a recent proud moment.
Yes. I am born and raised in Burlington, North Dakota. And I am a proud North Dakotan. Like you said, I was Miss North Dakota USA in 2019. And I'm the founding state director of North Dakota Miss Amazing. I am also a special education teacher and a new mom. So that has been my newest endeavor and journey. And I'm just loving this season that I'm in right now.
Oh, I love to hear that. All right. So let's hear more about the Miss Amazing program. It is actually one that I am not as familiar with. So, yeah, tell me, like, is it a state and national program? How long has it been around for, and what inspired you to get involved initially?
It's relatively new, especially in the Midwest. North Dakota has only had an organization created since 2019. Technically, our first event was 2021 due to COVID.
Right.
But we are relatively new here in the Midwest, but the organization as a whole spans across the nation. We currently serve in 33 states. And we are just looking to grow every year. North Dakota Miss Amazing, like I said, 2019 was our inauguration year, if you will. And it all started from my time as Miss North Dakota USA. I was volunteering at the South Dakota Miss Amazing event and was really moved by how powerful this organization can be, and how impactful it was on the community that we were in South Dakota. And I have a sibling with a disability, and so, I'm always looking for ways to mesh two of my passions together, pageantry and working with people with disabilities, and building advocacy and community around that. And sitting in the audience that day at their final show in South Dakota, I thought, this is an opportunity that one is very rare to see, right? We are quite literally holding a microphone to some of the most caring, influential, and positive people across the community. And we're letting them, share their voice and bring to the table what they have to say, which is super awesome and unique to find. And I also thought, wow, North Dakota doesn't have this opportunity yet. Why not? I was kind of in the process at that moment of getting ready to give up my title, um, and figuring out what that looked like. And so I was really excited, to be inspired in that way. And I knew it was going to be a challenge, but I was ready to take on that challenge. I needed a new passion project, if you will. And so this just kind of naturally fell into my lap.
I love that. And there is a lot of truth there with once, if you're any type of title holder in any system, you know that feeling of, oh my gosh, what's next? Because there's so much of your life that is wrapped up and involved in your year as a title holder, your year of
Yeah.
service, and the work that goes into it, that it is almost a feeling of like, what am I supposed to do with my time and my skills and my gifts now that I'm not going to have, like using your crown as your megaphone to talk about whatever organization that you are advocating for or whatever it may be throughout that year. But yeah, so I'm glad that you found Ms. Amazing as your next thing then.
Yeah,
So
it was really tough because, after a national pageant, I know we were just talking how you're preparing for your national pageant. After a national event like that, you really have a come down and a come to Jesus moment of like, "Oh, I'm almost done. Like I'm on my way out
Mhm.
here." And um I feel like so many of us talk about, leaving a legacy after our year is over and what that looks like. And I was just so blessed to happen upon this opportunity because I still get to live in the world of glitz and glamour and advocacy and um self-confidence and communication skills and all of those things. So, it's a super
Mhm.
fun opportunity.
Yeah. So, how did you initially hear about the South Dakota Miss Amazing and the opportunity to support them?
So, as you know, we get opportunities to go to different events as title holders, different appearances. And so, since North Dakota did not have an organization like this, we were invited to join the South Dakota Queens. Both my and my teen at the time, Caitlin's platforms were based around disability advocacy, and spreading awareness of inclusion. And so our wonderful state directors kind of thought it was a natural fit. And so they said, hey, if you'd be willing to make the drive, they would love to have you. And we both were, of course, like, of course, we would love to do this. So it turned out really well.
Yeah. So was there like a fireball moment or an aha moment that you had at that South Dakota Miss Amazing pageant that made you realize, I can do this in North Dakota.
Yeah. So, you know, a couple of things really stuck out to me. The first was when we were getting ready, all of the girls go into their hair and makeup and they go, get all beautified. And one of the young ladies was looking in the mirror and she just kept saying, "Wow, I am so beautiful. I am so beautiful." And she was telling all of her friends how great they looked. And it was just a really touching moment because I've had some of those same moments in my pageant experience, where you look to the girl next to you and you say, "Wow, you look amazing." Um, and while I think pageantry gets a bad rap sometimes of the negativity and the cattiness, I personally have not experienced much of that. And so I was really happy to see that um, people like my sister got to experience that same um, moment with their friends. And so that was really cool. The moment that told me, like, yes, I'm going to do this, this needs to happen in North Dakota, my now husband, then boyfriend, and I were sitting in the audience watching the final show. And both of us were just tears in our eyes, just waterworks. It was so touching, so moving. There's a portion of the show called the Passion Presentation, and it's equated similarly to, like, a talent portion of a, conventional pageant, but the passion presentations that these ladies were bringing onto the stage were so moving. Every single one of them, you could tell that they put their time and energy and that it truly wasn't just a talent that they had. It wasn't a natural, gift that they were given, to be able to maybe sing or dance or tell jokes or something like that. This was something that they brought onto the stage and left their all on stage. And so whether they were doing a conventional talent, or they were doing a special skill that they had acquired, it was just so moving to see how they were able to shine on stage. And I looked at my now husband and was like, so am I crazy or are we doing this? We got to do this. And we went up to their state directors immediately after the show and we're like, "Hi, I'm Sam and I want to do this in North Dakota. Can you please help me?"
That is amazing.
Yeah.
I love that. You truly, like, just took action and were like, "We're gonna make this happen." So, I
Yeah.
love that. So, what skills and experiences did you have to tap into to make North Dakota Miss Amazing a reality that inaugural year in 2019?
I think during my time as Miss North Dakota USA, I really hate to admit this, but I kind of hid behind my crown. And so I really let people approach me. And that was kind of my superpower at that point was I was, tried to make myself as approachable as possible. But when I took the crown off, I had to approach people and I had to, you know, pitch my ideas and why I thought they'd be a good fit for a board or why they should make a donation or, why they should work with us in some way. Um, and that was really hard for me. I'm very much an introvert, but I try to hide it as much as I can. And so, reaching out initially based on a dream that I had was really hard. Um, it's it's gotten a lot easier as the years go on because now people have seen the show. They recognize, the t-shirts and the
Yeah.
logos and the girls. They recognize our queens, and what our sashes look like. And so it's a lot easier now, to walk up to someone and say, "Hey, have you heard of North Dakota Miss Amazing? You should volunteer or you should be a part of our organization in some way." But that was a really big challenge for me because I was very much used to, you know, having that topic to approach people on like, "Hey, I know you know what this crown and sash means. Let's talk about that." And
Mhm.
I didn't have that once I gave up my title, and so I had to grow in that area.
So what are the numbers look like for the number of contestants that you have? How have you worked to grow the reputation of North Dakota Miss Amazing these last few years?
It has been the easiest pitch, I think. We started out our first year, we had, I believe, 12 participants um, attending our state event, and now we're growing. We had 23 this past year. And so we are just fortunate that our participants and our volunteers truly help us spread the word better than any social media post
Mhm.
or presentation that I could give. Our participants and our volunteers truly do the work, as far as, having new people join us year after year. It is a unique challenge in that North Dakota has multiple, what I would consider, like, hub cities. And so, Bismarck is our state capital. However, we have larger cities in Minot, Bismarck, Fargo, Williston, Grand Forks. They're all fairly close in population size and disability community involvement, whereas other states tend to focus their efforts in one location. We are very fortunate, but also have the unique challenge to try and reach all corners of our state.
Mhm.
And so that's been a really unique challenge that, we've been working really hard to make community efforts and collaborations with different communities that maybe I'm not as familiar with. But that's where queens come in. This year we have 5 queens attending our national event this summer, and only one of them is from Minot. Other than that, they are from across the state. And
That's
so we're
awesome.
really, really thankful for that growth.
Yeah, that's great. That's not always easy to do with pageants, so
Yeah.
good job. So,
Thank you.
can you share a story of, a participant or a queen whose life has been transformed by Miss Amazing?
I wish I had one of them here with me. They do such a good job of, really putting into words, what the organization can do for our participants. Um, so many come to mind. I have built so many deep friendships through this organization, and I'm so, so lucky. Um, one of the ones that just pops into the top of my head. One, because we share that same name. Her name is Sam. She's from Jamestown, North Dakota. And when I first met her, she came our very first year, and she was very shy, very quiet. She kind of just went through the motions, and she was paired with her buddy, but really was, kind of to herself and just took everything in. I could tell that she was having a good time and enjoying herself, but she really just kind of sat back a little bit and just observed. Um, she was crowned that year, and we attended nationals together. Her family came, she had her support system that came as well, and then she came back. And the next year, she identified her friends, she came running up to them, she came and said hi to me, called me by name. Um, Fast forward to this year, she comes in with a purpose. She knows the routine. She knows some of our judges. She is a mentor and helps new participants.
Mhm.
Um, but is still that, quiet and approachable, you know, um, isn't overly loud by any means, but she really comes into the room with a presence now that I didn't necessarily see when she first started. And so, while I totally equate that to her own personal growth, she's definitely grown and matured in her own right, and had some wonderful experiences. I do think that Miss Amazing has been a way for her to build confidence outside of her community, and to grow in the idea of, I have something to say, and what I have to say is important, and it's just as valuable as the people standing next to me, and here's why you should listen to me. And she has really, really blossomed and grown in her own right, and I'm so, so, so proud of her. And she gets to come to nationals with us again this year, so I'm super
Oh,
excited for her.
exciting. It sounds like she's very deserving of getting to go to
Absolutely.
nationals. So, yeah, let's talk more about how this organization has helped some of those young women with disabilities build that confidence and find their voice. Like, what does that look like? Paint that picture for us.
I think it starts with our buddy program. We have amazing, like I said, amazing volunteers. And when they come, they are challenged with the title of hype person. So they're not just there to make sure the girls get to their next activity on time. They're not just there to make sure that they're lined up backstage and ready to go. No, they are there to be a built in best friend for the weekend and beyond. A lot of our volunteers keep in touch with our participants, which is so fun to see. But, you know, watching our participants meet their buddies, see friends that they've had from years past, and then go through all of our activities and our breakout sessions and make it through the final show and present themselves, not only face to face in an interview style conversation, but participate in our service projects that we do each year, benefiting a community organization that is putting good back out into the world. That's also a huge confidence booster. We have community members come in and do different activities. This year we had adaptive yoga. And so, really getting in touch with yourself and your body and feeling good and confident in your body and what it can do for you. Um, Watching our girls blossom and be able to say, I'm confident in my body. My body serves me. My body helps me serve a purpose in my community. That's always a really good message to share with young girls in general,
Hmm.
but especially, women and girls with disabilities who may feel stuck in their bodies sometimes, as any woman can, as
Hmm.
I've felt personally, it's just really empowering to walk into a room and hear that positivity about oneself is just so moving. And then to get to see them on stage. On stage is where these girls shine. They are all meant for the stage, more so than I could ever be. I get stage fright still to this day. And my participants walk out onto that stage like it was built specifically for
Oh, I
them.
love that.
It's one of the biggest stages in the Minot area. We are on campus at Minot State University. And so the same stage that has the symphony
Hmm.
orchestra and lots of plays and inaugural speeches and different things like that um, has this amazing platform for the girls to come out on stage, present their ideas, show, strut their stuff on stage, do an introduction, and have that standing ovation that they truly deserve.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Remind me, what are the ages of the girls that can compete?
Ages 5 and up. We don't have an age limit.
Okay.
Ages 5 to 9 participate in our Rising Stars program. And so that program is a little bit more flexible in what the girls do throughout the day just because they are younger. And those ladies do not yet have the opportunity to attend the national summit just because it is, a week long endeavor and can be a lot for those young ladies. And so we just really encourage them to continue to build their skills here
Hmm.
while they are very excited for when they turn 10, I promise you, because then ages 10 and up get put into different age categories and they all get to have the opportunity to be a statewide representative and then go on to our national summit in the summer.
So, how many representatives do you have going to nationals this summer?
We have 5 currently this year. The maximum you can have is 7, but we had a couple age divisions that we didn't have representatives for at our state level. But, that comes with growth and we're happy closing the gap each year and getting more and more participants to join us. But yeah, we've got 5 amazing
That's
ladies
great.
this year.
Well, let's talk about those 5 amazing ladies a little bit, and what are they doing as Miss Amazing representatives to take action and make an impact in the communities with those titles?
It's a really unique opportunity that we get to have working with them each year. And it's very centered around them, what makes them unique, what community they're in, what goals they set for themselves. That's one thing that Miss Amazing really works on is goal setting and reaching those goals that you set. It's great to create a vision board, but it's even better to be able to check things off that vision board and say, yes, I did that. I did that. And so we really let the girls take the reins and figure out what's important to them. If they want to speak at schools, okay, we'll pick up the phone. We'll start calling schools. We will get you those opportunities. If they want to be in parades, my girls love a good parade. So we make that happen. As many parades as we can get in, you will see North Dakota Miss Amazing in those parades across the state. Another big one is they love to do different charity fundraisers and work with different organizations that um, have supported them in the past. So things like North Dakota doesn't have a Best Buddies organization quite yet, but we
Mhm.
do work with Gigi's. So we're excited
Oh,
for
yeah.
their gala coming up in Fargo, and things like Special Olympics. We love to support the organizations that also give back to our queens because, you know, as you know, pageants can be very tunnel visioned. They can be like, "Oh, if you're a pageant girl, that means you're this." And it can be hard to kind of break those stereotypes. And now we're so blessed to have, queens that are in the military and
Mhm.
queens that are doctors and nurses and teachers and all of these other things that make up who they are. My queens are the same way. They have so many different they're athletes, they are scholars, they are in school, you know, they have jobs, they're married, all of these things that make them such a bigger person than just a person with a disability. Um, and so we really try to cater to what's gonna be important to them.
Yeah. Speaking of those barriers, what do you think are some of the biggest challenges that the young women that compete for Miss Amazing and just women with disabilities in general, when it comes to facing some of those challenges for them to be seen and to feel empowered? Because it's easy sometimes to overlook people with disabilities.
Absolutely. I think communication can be a huge barrier, whether it is a difference in communication styles or just the exposure to having opportunities to communicate with other people, familiar and unfamiliar people. And so, that's a huge part of what we do at our state event is working on interpersonal communication skills. And so our ladies all participate in a one-on-one conversation style interview. And so sharing information about themselves is something that anyone can do when given the right tools and strategies. But it can be super empowering because a lot of times in talking with my participants, they share that they don't often get asked about themselves. They don't often
Mhm.
get asked questions non-relating to their disability. And so, talking about their favorite color or what they would do if they had their perfect day, or what their goals are for the future, and how they plan to reach those goals, those conversations don't come up as naturally as one would hope. Um, But working on advocating for ourselves and saying, "Hey, my ideas matter and what I have to say matters," makes that a little bit easier and helps to bridge that gap so that hopefully our participants can share with their communities more about what they want to do with their lives.
Mhm. Yeah, and that can only help them in the long run with, like you said, helping them check those boxes of their goals that they have for themselves and, like, the impact that they're gonna continue to make in their communities as they get older, since they are starting in this program at such a young age, so,
Yes, we have
yes.
some amazing goal setters and goal reachers. We have some ladies who recently spoke at the state capitol building. We have ladies who are starting support programs in their communities. They got big plans, bigger than I could even dream. And so I'm so proud to just be a small part of a sounding board for them
Mhm.
to tell them, yeah, that's a huge goal, but that's totally attainable
Yeah.
completely. And to just be able to stand in the background and give that standing ovation for them because they deserve it.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about your goals now. What are some of your goals and what is your vision for the future of North Dakota Miss Amazing?
You know, I I always try to set really lofty goals. Um, and while that's, maybe just the secret optimist in me, or if I'm trying to maybe model after my participants, I would love to see us grow into an organization that continues to serve all corners of our state. Right now, we are working on both the east and west sides of our state. We're really more centrally located as far as where our participants come from. I would love to see us do more as far as smaller events throughout the year, um, in different parts of the state to help continue to build disability advocacy skills, working on communication, working on those goal setting skills on a wider range of opportunities. I would also love to build more community programs and connections with different organizations from across the state. We've just recently linked up with Gigi's Playhouse in Fargo, and we are loving building that relationship there. But I really just want to strengthen the disability community across North Dakota. I think it is strong but silent in a way. I think that there's a lot of silent supporters and um maybe, you know, people in the background that really appreciate the organizations that support our people with disabilities, but maybe not as loudly as they should. And so I think encouraging people to say out loud what they want to see and how they want to see it done um creates change, and you can't expect change if you do the same thing over and over, right? We have to make ourselves uncomfortable, and that's how we grow. And so just continuing to encourage people to um stand up for their beliefs and, you know call out change, really really to make it happen out loud.
Well, I think that you are definitely going to make that vision and that goal happen. So I can't wait to see all those things come to light. So good luck with
Thank
that.
you.
Yeah. All right. So as we wrap up here, for those listening who want to take action, what are some simple and meaningful ways that people can help create a more inclusive and supportive world for individuals with disabilities?
I think the biggest thing that you can do, is just, you know, choose to include, um, ask questions, include in conversations, be friendly, say hello. And those all sound like really simple and silly things, but I think a lot of times people tend to overthink.
Mm,
Um, and tend to, err on the side of I don't want to offend. I don't want to um ask questions in order to avoid being rude. But I think our world is changing, and I think that um from the conversations that I've had, you know, people with disabilities want to be seen, and they want to share about themselves, and they want people to be educated, and they want people to ask questions, um and they want to build relationships. And so the only way that you can do that is to be open to maybe making mistakes along the way, but to just be curious and to, ask questions and seek relationships.
mhm. Great. And then lastly, Samantha, where can people learn more about North Dakota Miss Amazing at a state level, maybe in their state, and at a national level as well?
We would love to have more traffic on our social media. We've been really trying to build that up, and we are getting ready to post a lot of our event photos and videos. So, our Facebook is North Dakota Miss Amazing. Our Instagram is at ND Miss Amazing. And our website is missamazing.org/chapters/ND. But if you just go to missamazing.org, you can check out any state chapter and either volunteer or register to participate. There's also giving programs. We have a reoccurring donation um, um, program that you can give to if you feel so inclined. But we also post about our upcoming events and different ways that you can get involved and see us in the community on our socials.
Wonderful. I love that. Well, thank you so much for being here today on Act to Impact and sharing with us more about North Dakota Miss Amazing.
Thank you for having me.
You've been listening to Act to Impact with Brandi DeVries. If this show ignited your fire and inspired you to take action to make an impact, please share this episode with a friend, leave a 5-star review, or write a review to let others know how the show impacted you. I can't wait to see the action you are taking to make an impact, and I'd love for you to share that with our community. Go ahead and tag me on social media as you are out making an impact in the world. Do you have a story to share and want to be a guest on Act to Impact? I'd love to connect with you.